Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Shauna. Let's get into this. So, I'm sorry, I'm 5 minutes late. I had some crazy stuff going on just now. I'm sorry. We human, we weird. I've been late today, all day. I don't like it, but let's hop into this. So, remember, we're talking about zodiac signs and horoscopes, and we are doing birth charts right now. And I said that we would do mock birth charts, but before I did the mock birth charts, I wanted to actually do birth charts for people, like real actual people, right? Real birth charts, so we can see how it works and how it plays out in real life, how it manifests. I want to first say that everything I'm discussing is Googleable. I don't think that's the word, but you can Google everything that I'm saying. This is not nothing that I'm making up. You can look this up for yourself. I usually do Astro Cafe Astrology, but I did not do that tonight for the sake of research purposes, because the other websites that I used as a reference had other information that I was looking for. So I just opted out to use some other sites that I don't usually use, okay? So that's that. Now, I want to also say that I wanted to have a little bit more detail. So I am going to probably be using their birth charts for a few more segments, just so we could learn how to interpret the birth chart, and like I said, so we could see how it all manifests in the physical, in the 3D. I did go into some of the other systems, but like I said, I wanted the details to be a little bit more oriented, and I wanted to also make sure that the information that I had was accurate. So everyone knows that Beyonce and Jay-Z, both of their birthdays fall on the day number 4. I think that within itself just says a lot. Even when you look at their birth dates, like the actual numbers, you can see a lot of synchronicities within the numbers. If you just write down 9/4/1981, 12/4/1969, if you look at those numbers, you'll see what I mean. Once you have them in front of you, you could see the correlation. And that's usually some of the ways too. Now, this is just me saying soulmates, but I want to use them because they're also business partners, right? So that can cover different areas of life. So instead of just saying, how are you compatible as far as love is concerned? Now, these two could have been put together by a publicist, and they probably have used their birth charts to say that they would actually make a good fit, right? So I'm really, like I said, using them because they have connected in different areas of life, not just love. And like I said, whether this was a publicized relationship or an actual relationship, as far as the birth charts are concerned, it looks interesting, right? So we have now remember, we have this house, this wheel, right? And this is as far as Western astrology is concerned. We have this wheel that encompasses the 12 different zodiac signs. And remember, we talked about how the zodiac sign is going across a belt, and then it's broken down into several components. So if you wanted to break it down by quadrant, you can do that. If you wanted to break it down by element, by further breaking it down, you can break it down by element, and so on and so forth. So that's just the wheel for Western astrology. And I want to say this. Yes, I did look into Vedic a little bit. However, the wheel for Vedic is slightly different. The elements are the same. The zodiac signs are the same. But the wheel is slightly different in Vedic astrology. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I know how to read it, because I do not. I'm just understanding the wheel for Western astrology. So when it comes to like Vedic astrology, it's really hard for me to interpret because I'm just learning how to interpret Western, right? So, okay, now, so when you get to the sun, right, you have these two sun signs. You have the Sagittarius and then you have the Virgo. And then for their moon signs, Jay-Z is a Libra. And Beyonce is a Scorpio. Beyonce is a Scorpio moon, right? And then when you look at their rising signs, you have the Pisces for Jay-Z's rising sign, and then you have Beyonce's rising as a Cancer. Now, some of this information was kind of like a little scattery. I don't know why it was coming up so different. That's another reason why I like to use Astro Cafe, because it's a little bit, more accurate as far as pulling up the actual zodiac signs as far as like placements wise, right? But now when you flip that over to Vedic, Jay-Z would actually be a Scorpio. He might still actually be a Sag. But I'm sure it's Scorpio. And Beyonce would be a Leo, right? Everything is one sign back. Typically a few days off, but more than likely, depending on which deacon you fall into, he's second deacon Sagittarius. So I'm sure that would make him Scorpio and Vedic. But even then, when you compare these signs, just look at this, right? How compatible is the Libra and the Scorpio, right? Highly. These are their moon signs. Jay-Z is a Libra moon. Beyonce is a Scorpio moon. So you want to first say, how does the Libra moon think? How does the Scorpio moon think, right? Then you say, how do those two moons that think come together, right? How would those two thinkers come together? How would that manifest, right? And that's pretty much how you read the rest of the chart. As far as their Mercury, Jay-Z is a Sag, Beyonce is a Libra. Their Venus, he's a Sag, she's a Libra. They both are Libra Jupiter. She's a Libra Saturn, he's Taurus. As far as Uranus, he's a Libra, she's a Scorpio. As far as Neptune, he's a Scorpio, she's a Sag. As far as Pluto, he's a Virgo, she's a Libra. As far as the North Node goes, we talked about that. That's the rising sign. He's a Pisces, she's a Cancer. And then we have this thing called the midhaven. Now, the midhaven is basically the highest point on the horizon where any planet could reach. So if you see that, if you're looking at the chart, you're going to see whatever planet is the furthest away, basically from everything else at the highest point, that would be the midhaven. The midhaven is basically like your career, who you are in the public, who you are socially. That can be a segment all by itself. We could do that as a separate, segment, because that's not one of those things that you just throw out there. And I wanted to kind of just so we could have a better idea of reading before we start going into how these signs are compatible in these houses and what exactly does that mean. Because we went over the will, I wanted to go over that again. But before we went back over the will, I just wanted to go into how the other systems of astrology look at this. And I also wanted to discuss how long these planets transit, and basically how long they sit. So in all of these systems, and this is why I chose these three, because this is the main thing they have in common, and it's the observation of the actual planets. These planets move around, right? They don't sit in one spot, but some of them do sit for a while. So when you break down the chart, right, you have these dominant signs. Though you have the sun and the moon, right? The sun, what everybody sees, your ego, yada, 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 etc., etc. The external, right? Then you have the moon sign, which is the internal, your intuition, your thoughts. How do you think? How do you express yourself? This type of energy would determine how you do those things, right? So when you look at these planets, it should make you wonder. So, and this is why you would say like some of them have like the same planets in certain houses, because some of the planets don't move that often. So Uranus sticks around for 84 years. It takes 84 years to orbit around the sun. Neptune takes 165 years. And Pluto takes 248 years. So more than likely, if you're dating someone, if they're not that much older than you are, and depending on, like the cutoff of the years in between, you're going to have the same sign as Uranus, as most people that because these are the spans of lifetimes, right? At least the Uranus, the Neptune, and the Pluto. So, and it's odd because they don't have either of those things, but they do have some of the same signs in some of these houses. They share Libra and Jupiter, and they have a lot of opposing signs and elements in some of the oddest places as well. So yeah, so Uranus is 84 years, Neptune is 165, Pluto is 248 years. Then Jupiter orbits for 12 years, Saturn orbits for 29 years, and then Mercury for 88 days. This is why it's always in retrograde, because it's the fastest moving planet as far as transiting. And then Venus is 225 days, and Mars is 687, right? So when you think of these planets, just know that some of them are going to move and they're going to go to other houses. And this is, like I said, why they're always saying Mercury is in retrograde, because it moves more than one time a year, right? This is the only planet that moves more than once a year. Venus is 225 days and Mars is 687 days, right? So when you think of interpreting your birth chart, you want to first pay attention to what planets are in what houses, right? And that'll be how we start gauging it. That'll be how you start to break it down as far as Western is concerned. Now, as far as Chinese, they're both rooster sign. He's the earth element, she's metal, but they're both rooster. And as far as Chinese astrology is concerned, they're not even compatible, right? But when I look at Western astrology, remember, your sun, your moon, and your rising are the main things, and all of their sun, moon, and rising signs are compatible. Virgo goes with Sag, that's their sun sign. Scorpio goes with Libra, those are their moon. And then Libra goes with Pisces, with Cancer. Cancer and Pisces go together, that's their rising sign, right? And those are the big three. Those are the big three determining factors of basically everything as far as Western astrology is concerned. Now, when you move over to Vedic calculates positions of the rising sign, right? It uses transiting signs and planets, right? But as far as Western is concerned, it uses fixed signs, right? It's using the belt. It's going according to the belt. And it's saying, okay, the sun is going here, there, and there when this person is born. But As far as Vedic is concerned, it's looking at the planets that are moving. Okay, and yes, the planets are moving in both, but the difference here is the calculations, right? It's calculating the rising sign, right? The planets that are dominant, right? The Mercury, the Venus, the Mars, the Jupiter, it's looking at those planets when you're born, whereas the Vedic is focusing solely on the rising sign, and Western is more of a focus on the sun. So that's the major difference in the calculation. There's an actual mathematical equation as far as Vedic is concerned. But in theory, these signs are all compatible. And then when you start to look at, the rest of the birth charts, and then there's this thing called the descending sign, which I was getting so much craziness. As far as their descending signs, I got that Jay-Z was a Virgo descending in, Beyonce was an Aries descending in. What that means is that this is what they were in their past lives. So, and even that, the Virgo and the Aries, they're compatible. They get along very well. I mean, they have this undeniable loyalty to each other. So again, once you start to learn how to read the will, all of this stuff will start to make sense. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because, we're over 15 minutes. But I just wanted to come in and use their birth charts to basically say that it's not just the sun sign that, we need to be paying attention to when we're looking at compatibility, and not just for love, compatibility for life overall. Your career, your happiness, your habits, your illnesses. Your birth chart is more than just the sun, the moon, and the rising. There are other things that make you, right? But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure we got that understood before we started to move into the will and break it down and interpret it. We're going to go over, these placements again. I just wanted to put them out there to basically say, this is what, reading compatibility looks like. You have to pull out the entire birth chart and not only focus on the sun sign. Okay? But, yeah, that's pretty much it. I love you guys. I hope your day went well. I hope your weekend was well, because today is Monday. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry for the background noise tonight. It's Monday. Everybody's trying to get themselves together to get settled in for the week, okay? So I love y'all. I hope all is well. I hope y'all gonna, eat something good tonight and drink some water and eat some fruit and sip y'all tea because it's free, all right? I'm gonna make sure I get on up out of here, all right? Love y'all. Peace.